Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Houston Sports Talk back in the video today. And the Houston Astros beat the Arizona Diamondbacks 4-3 to get a sweep. And I'm just going to get real honest. I think this is one of the most impressive wins the Astros have had all season. If you look at the lineup that the Astros put out today going into the game, is this a lineup the Astros should win in? Is this a game they should win? Absolutely not. I looked at this lineup today and I thought to myself, Joe Espada, he must want to lose this game with what you look at this lineup. When the fact that you've got all the injured guys that this team has right now, Isaac Paredes, Jeremy Pena, Yordan Alvarez, Jake Myers, some of your top hitters are already all out of the lineup. And the Astros are really missing those four guys. And then when you're without those guys and all the other hitters as well, like Zach DeZenzo and Brendan Rodgers and just missing out on some other small, Jacob Melton's injured, missing out on some other small players that might be playing in this lineup today with all the other top players out. So with all these guys injured, you would think, oh, no way you give out, you give away a day off to two top players. Altuve and both Cam Smith are not in the lineup as well today with scheduled day offs. Both guys are healthy, but scheduled day offs for Altuve and Cam Smith. And I was thinking, no way the Astros can go out there and win today with this lineup. And they definitely went out and did it. I just, no way did I think they could put up 4 runs with the lineup that they had today. When you've got 4 top hitters in the lineup, out, Pena, Paredes, and Myers, and Yordan, and then you give the day off to Altuve and Cam Smith. And if you include Brendan Rodgers being on the injured list, that is 7 of the 9 hitters that were in the opening day lineup on game 1, not in the lineup today. The only 2 players that were in the opening day lineup that were in the game today for the Astros, Christian Walker and Yanner Diaz. That shows you right there how injured this team has been this year. Sure, 2 of those guys I mentioned, Altuve and Cam Smith had a day off today, but it didn't seem like that was a crazy. It seemed like that might have been a crazy decision to give both of those guys the day off. One of those guys, I feel like Cam Smith definitely deserved a day off because he's been struggling lately, and we'll see if that can wake him up going back home. But giving both of them the day off was definitely a dicey decision by Joe Espada. But somehow with this lineup where you have Taylor Trammell in the lineup as the leadoff, and you look at some of this lineup like Bryce Matthews, who's been great. I'm not saying he hasn't been. Bryce Matthews has been phenomenal, but Bryce Matthews is a rookie and he's at the 5 spot. Christian Walker at the 3 and Caratini at the 2, and that's no disrespect to them, but that's just a little bit high in the lineup for those guys. It just shows you how injured. And then you look at the rest of the lineup. Look at the bottom of the order: Shea Whitcomb, Zach Short, Chas McCormick, Cooper Hummel. So this was just a very, very not great lineup, but somehow they were still able to have a great day and put up 4 runs and 11 hits somehow and get the W. It's really impressive to me. But they get the sweep. They are 60-42 now. They now have a lead for the number 1 record in the American League. They have a half a game lead that could boost to 1 depending on what happens with the Yankees and the Blue Jays tonight. I'm going to be rooting for the Yankees tonight. So the Blue Jays can lose, but yeah, and they've now won 4 games in a row. I mean, they were struggling. They were really struggling. They were, after the amazing Dodgers series where they swept the Dodgers, they were really struggling. They were 1-7, having a 1-5 homestand, and then losing the first 2 games in Seattle. And then since then, they've really got going again, and they're now 4-0 in their last 4 games, and got back to the level they were after that. Before the end of the All-Star break where they really started struggling, and then a little bit after it. You love to see that for this squad. And now they've got the second best record in Major League Baseball and only 1 game back from the number 1. And on top of all this positive stuff, the Mariners lost today, got crushed by the Brewers. But if the Mariners would have won today, the Astros would have been a lot closer to the number one spot in Major League Baseball. All right, so 4-3's final score: 11 hits for the Astros, 9 for Arizona, 1 error for Arizona. Win goes that scored a run. Win goes to Bennett Sousa. He did not deserve the win today. Josh Hader deserved the win, but that's not how baseball works. Bennett Sousa didn't even pitch well enough to get the win, but thanks to Christian Walker, he does get that win. So he pitches 1 inning, and we've seen a lot of good stuff from Sousa, but today was not that. 4 hits and 2 earned runs given up with 1 walk. Rare struggles for Bennett Sousa. Loss goes to Ginkel. In the ninth, he gave up 3 hits, 1 earned run, 1 strikeout. 2 of those were bunt singles. Save goes to Josh Hader. He does give up 1 hit, gets his 27th save of the season, and gets 2 strikeouts. All right, scoring summary. For the 14th straight game for the Houston Astros, they do not score first. A first-inning leadoff home run for Ketel Marte, who struggled yesterday, crushed this one 420 feet to make it 1-0. Yeah, so, great home run by Ketel Marte, but what this does for the Astros is now 14 straight games where their opponent scores first. The last time the Astros scored first in a game was July 4th against the Dodgers when they had that crushing defeat against the Dodgers. And we will see if maybe Jason Alexander pitcher could be, healing to this, because Jason Alexander, if you guys remember, in that game against the Dodgers, Lance McCullers Jr. Pitched the 6 innings in that game, and then Alexander came in and pitched innings 7 through 9 for the Astros, and he pitched in the last game that the Astros scored first in a game. And that was the last time Alexander pitched in a game for the Astros. Well, guess who's starting tomorrow for the Astros? Jason Alexander. Could tomorrow be the game for the Astros where they can score first time in almost 3 weeks? So that would be interesting. But after that, this was the run that scored an error in the 6th inning. Walker scored on an error. Matthews is safe at first on the error by shortstop Perdomo. It's 1-1. Then Diaz scored on a wild pitch. Matthews to second on the wild pitch. It's 2-1. Then an RBI single from Mauricio Dubon in the 8th inning makes it 3-1. But a RBI double and a RBI single for the Diamondbacks, RBI double by Carroll and a RBI single by Josh Naylor, ties the game at 3. But I think this is a poetic way of ending the series and giving the Astros a sweep. Former Arizona Diamondback Christian Walker, who killed it in this series for the Astros, hits a RBI single to center. Zach Short scores. Trammell to third. It's 4-3. Walker had 2 hits in every game of this series, 6 hits in the series for Christian Walker against his former team. That's a one hell of a way to return against your former team. You love to see it for Christian Walker. Zach Short scores on the RBI single by Walker. All right, Astros individual batters. Taylor Trammell was at leadoff today. Good day for him. A bunt single in the 9th inning helped the Astros bring the game-winning run to second. He also had 2 walks today in the 1st inning and 7th inning, 1 for 3 with 2 walks for Trammell. Victor Caratini was 1 for 5. He extends his hitting streak to the longest hitting streak of his career at 10 games. Love to see that for Victor Caratini. Christian Walker, 2 for 5. I already mentioned that. A double to left and an RBI single. And he was at DH today. First base was Victor Caratini. How about Yander Diaz, though? He was great today. 3 for 5, scored 2 runs, single to left in the 4th inning, double to left in the 8th inning, double to center in the 6th inning. Yander Diaz in this series was phenomenal. Had the day off in the first game of this series, but the last 2 days was absolutely great. 5 hits in the last 2 games for Yander Diaz, now batting up to 246. Bryce Matthews, after hitting 3 home runs and having 8 RBIs in the first 2 games of the series, went 0 for 4. Actually, he did get another RBI today. He did get an RBI off of the 6th inning error, because that run would have scored anyways, even if the error wasn't made. He didn't get a hit for that, but he got an RBI for that. Bryce Matthews did. And then he had a sac bunt in the 8th inning to get Diaz to third. And solid day for Matthews. Gets an RBI. Dubon 1 for 3. Walk in the 4th inning. A RBI single in the 8th inning for Dubon. And then Cooper Hummel was 1 for 3 today. He had a single to right in the 2nd inning. Can Smith, who did have the day off, came in late, had a out to right in the 8th inning as a pinch hitter. Chas McCormick was 0 for 4 today. Shea Whitcomb was 1 for 3, had a single to left, was replaced by Zach Short. This was a good decision because Zach Short had an amazing bunt. 2 straight bunts for the Astros in the 9th inning with Zach Short and Taylor Trammell. This was the first one, bunt single. Let's get to Brandon Walter. Brandon Walter does not get the win today because this was a close game at the end of this game. But Walter does give the Astros a quality start. 7 innings for Walter, 4 hits given up, only 1 earned run, 5 strikeouts for Walter. And here's the crazy thing. The Astros could have used Walter, and I think this discussion could be used. The Astros could have brought Walter out for another inning. He could have pitched an 8th inning. He was at 82 pitches through 7 innings. Walter 100% could have pitched an 8th inning, but instead they went to Bennett Sousa, who's been a really reliable reliever for the Astros, but today he was not. And I talked about just Josh Hader did in the 9th, getting the save. You love to see that. And the Astros win 4-3. Now they are 60-42. And have won 4 in a row after being 1-7 in their 8 previous games before that. So they've now gotten up to 5-7 in the last 12 games after being really, having some really bad struggles, and they've got back to being, like before. Here's the crazy thing. Before the being 1-7, the Astros were really far back from the number 1 spot in the American League because the Tigers were playing really well. But even though the Astros are only 5-7 in the last 12 games, they're even closer to the number 1 spot in the American League to the point where they're actually leading in that spot at having a half a game lead. That's because of the Tigers' struggles, as they are 2-9 in their last 11 games. So even though the Astros have struggled, it hasn't mattered that much in the American League standings because you've got the Tigers who are struggling a lot as well, worse than the Astros. And so that's built themselves a lead. And I think you can look back at it and say, or maybe the way this team played and was playing doesn't really matter when you see the way the Tigers were playing, and when the Astros got hot the way they have in the last 4 games, they just get back to the point where they have a half game lead, could move up to 1 game lead in the American League. Let me know your thoughts on the Astros 43 win in the comment section, and peace out, go Stros.